All right. Time for Money Watch. And many Americans across the country continue to struggle financially because of this pandemic. And although lawmakers are still negotiating the terms of the next economic relief package, analysts say there is one thing you can do to help ensure that you get that third round of stimulus money. It is file your 2020 tax return. File it as soon as possible. CBS News MoneyWatch reporter Aimee Picchi is joining us now to talk a little bit more about this. People love to sort of put off their tax returns until the last minute, and I'm sure this past year has been a doozy for a lot of people, but they got to get on it. What is the latest that you are hearing about the next round of stimulus checks? Is there any sense of when Congress will pass it and what the income threshold will look like? I know there's a lot of debate about, how much money you should have to make before you've made too much to be eligible for any sort of stimulus.
Yeah, those are great questions. Thanks, Anne-Marie. So lawmakers are really pushing to pass this next package before mid-March. And the reason for that is because the extra unemployment benefits expire on March 14th. So they don't want people to be in that situation where they suddenly have a gap in unemployment benefits and the extra unemployment benefits they've been getting. And as you point out, there has been a debate about the income thresholds, but House Democrats are pushing to keep them at the same level that they've been at for the past two checks, which is $75,000 for single taxpayers and $150,000 for married couples. And then they phase out after that and kind of above, I think, $100,000 for single people and $200,000 for married couples, more or less. You don't get anything above that level. So that's what the current thinking is at the moment. But as you mentioned, that could change.
Mm-hmm. So I think part of the challenge when it comes to these stimulus checks is there isn't often a lot of information, and if you're not super proactive, you might miss stuff. So what should people do to help ensure that they get the next round of stimulus checks?
Yeah. So it's interesting with this next stimulus check round because the important thing to understand is that it's coming smack dab in the middle of tax filing season. Tax filing started on Friday, February 12th, which was actually late this year. It was about 2 weeks late. And of course, it ends April 15th. So if the stimulus package passes mid-March, that's right in the middle of tax filing season. And what's important to understand about how the stimulus checks work is that it's based on your most recent tax return. And that's really important because you have this 2-month window to file your taxes. A month before the next stimulus package passes, you'll have time to file your 2020 tax returns. So the tax experts I spoke to said, if you lost income in 2020, which happened to a lot of people because of the pandemic and all the job losses we saw, you might want to file your taxes before mid-March. So, in the next few weeks, because otherwise the IRS is going to look at your 2019 tax returns, which for most people are going to show higher income. To determine whether you get your stimulus money. And of course, this really only applies to people who are kind of like on that threshold, on that cusp. So if you're, 75,000 or above for a single person, 150,000 above for a married couple, that's where you really want to think about, okay, should I really get my taxes filed ASAP? Now, the IRS, I asked them about this actually, and they said, yes, you should, no matter what, try to get your taxes in quickly, partially also just so you get your refund faster. But they caution, make sure you have all your information before you file, because if you don't, that's going to hold up your tax processing and your tax refund even longer. So make sure you have everything ready, everything prepared before you file. So don't just rush to get them in just for the sake of getting them in. Make sure everything's complete and correct before you file.
Mm-hmm. And if a relief bill is passed and stimulus money is sent out before someone files their 2020 taxes, does that money, I guess, has to be included as income for the 2020 taxes?
Actually, no. So this is interesting. The stimulus money is not considered income by the IRS. It's actually a tax credit. It's an advance on a tax credit. So this is a big question that we get a lot is, will I have to pay taxes on my stimulus income or stimulus checks? And the answer is no. One of the big questions is, though, like, what if I didn't get as much as I should have? That happened to a lot of people last year as well. One big reason is if you had a baby in 2020. The IRS didn't know you had a baby because you haven't filed your 2020 tax returns yet. In your tax return, you claim your dependents. And in that case, you are owed additional stimulus money. So in that case, what you want to do is when you file your 2020 taxes, there's actually a line on your taxes this year where you can claim the extra money. It's called the recovery rebate. And if you want to figure out if you're owed more, there's actually a worksheet that the IRS has published. You can just go to irs.gov. It's called the Recovery Rebate Worksheet. Search for that. You'll find it. And it'll walk you through the steps to find out if you should claim more recovery or stimulus money on your 2020 tax returns.
All good news you can use. I know that this is information that people really, really want. They should head to our website, and you can get more information about, hopefully, fingers crossed, the upcoming stimulus checks. Aimee, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.